What if your joy isn't random? What if it's actually revealing who you really are? What if? What if things that lit you up as a child weren't actually hobbies or a phase or even a distraction? What if they actually were clues? What if your soul has been trying all this time to guide you your entire life? But somewhere along the way, you actually learn to stop listening to that part of you. Hmm. And, and what if the reason that you feel stuck, disconnected, lost, or unfulfilled isn't because you don't know your purpose, but maybe because you've been taught to ignore your joy? Welcome to the Coming Home to You Sparkcast, where joy is medicine, healing is sacred, and joy is your superpower and remembrance as well. Hi, I'm Margarita Rose. This season is all about exploring the embodied leader. And this month, we're talking about joy as power. This week in particular is the Soul Week. And we've been talking about the power of joy through the mind, body, and soul. And so today, we're going to land on the importance of what you already innately know. Because joy isn't something that you feel. It's actually something that you remember. It's something that you reclaim. And I want to ask you something before we start. Before the world told you who to be, who were you? What was the thing that fascinated you, the thing that lit you up as a child? What was it? And what was the thing that you could spend hours doing that, like, you literally lost track of time? 20 minutes would actually be 3 hours. You're like, I've only been doing this for like 20 minutes, right? And you look up and it's like, oh my God, 3 hours later. What was that thing? What made you feel the most alive? What did you love to do before someone told you that maybe it wasn't practical, maybe it wasn't productive or profitable or realistic? What was it? Think, take a second to actually think right now. Think back. What was that thing that just lit you up? That dream that you set aside? Because survival and belonging and approval became more important than your wonder, your exploration, your creativity, your freedom. You know, when I was a child, one of the things that brought me a lot of joy was music. And you've heard me say this multiple times, and that's just my thing. Everybody has their thing. You know, maybe your thing was collecting coins. Maybe it was learning about dinosaurs or bugs or engineering. Um, Maybe it was dancing. Because for me, dancing came with music, but music was what made me dance. And I loved dancing because I loved music. I also loved art and crafting and creating and moving. So those were the things that felt very simple. They felt childlike, but it was actually my joy. It is how we are born. It is who we are when we're born. Innately, we know we're drawn towards the things that light us up. And that is our compass home. That is our compass to our purpose. And that is something that now, as I see coming full circle, I realize, oh my gosh, how did I even deviate so far away from what brings me joy? And what I didn't realize all these years ago was that every time I would dance, every time I would put on music, it helped me to regulate my nervous system. It helped me to come back home to me because in those moments, I get stuck in the story of the identity that the world was boxing me in on. I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm too much, I'm too loud, I'm too willful, opinionated, um, strong-headed, not enough. Like you name it, I fit the bill for all of them. And so slowly but surely, I started to not be in my joy. I started to think that those things were childish and I shouldn't, if I wanted to be taken seriously, I needed to fit the bill of that. And so slowly but surely, I stopped expressing my own very essence of joy, of what brought me to life. Oh, what I now know is my superpower. Does it sound like you? Have you done that? Have you put aside the thing that lights you up, that brings you joy, that makes you feel, I don't know, like invincible, just to look good, to fit in, to belong, to be taken seriously, to look like an adult, right? To be an adult. How many of you have ever heard of the Peter Pan complex? I'm starting to think that's not a bad thing. I mean, I know one famous Peter Pan, Michael Jackson, but like just imagine the type of joy that he lived in. And I know that word is probably a trigger name for a lot of people because of what he was accused of, but that is not why I brought up his name. I brought up his name because I know a few people in my life who I would often say, why don't you grow up? You're 40 something years old and you're still like, when are you going to grow up? But now I'm thinking like, gosh, I need to grow down. Is that a thing? I need to start growing down back into my childhood, back into my inner light. And I didn't realize that the experiences that I had as a child when I was not even as a child, but like even in my young adolescence and young in my young early 20s, I was always in my joy. People were always like, I love your energy. You're just so much fun and you're so positive. And I was like, because I love music and I love dancing and I'm always looking for the good in things. I was always looking for the good in things. But somewhere along the way, I started to believe other people's interpretation of me. And what I realize now is that in the end, that interpretation had nothing to do with me and who I am and what value I bring and my worth. It was because they were seeing me through their perspective lens, perception, perspective. I always forget which one it is. And it said more about where they are and what they believe is right and wrong than it actually does in who I am. And so now that I'm in a place that understands that that means nothing about me, just today I was on a phone call that I think I had a little high expectations for the phone call and it didn't go my way. And I was left feeling like I didn't matter, like I wasn't good enough again. Like it opened up that old wound. And instead of sitting there and allowing it to ruin my whole entire day, I gave myself 5 minutes. Maybe it was 10, maybe it was less. I gave myself 5 to 10 minutes just to process and to be in the pain, to be in the story. But I knew I was aware that I was in the story. So I didn't, first of all, I didn't let it overtake me. That was the difference because I recognize now, I have an awareness now that doesn't mean anything about me. I just got curious long enough to find out why it was robbing me from my joy. And then I got to connect the dots in all the ways that I showed up not in my truth, not in integrity, not in my power, not in my joy. And sometimes when doors close, it's not because you don't matter or you're not enough or you're not good enough. It's just because God or the higher powers at be are protecting you from being in a space that is not in alignment with who you truly are. And that's what I chose. I chose to believe that story, the better serving story. And that is where my joy lives. And that was my power. Today, I reclaimed my power in real time by choosing to not let this one phone call ruin the next 2 weeks or month or 6 months. Because how many times have you been out there and one thing happens and you make it mean something and then all of a sudden you're ruminating over it for months or years or decades? Is that you? Do you have a story that you're still holding on to that's been going on for decades? Yes, me too. Until now. And the first key is awareness. The first key is knowing that you're in it. You're in the story, in the limiting story, in the story of the version of you that survived all these years, that protected you. But today, I only allowed that moment to be a small moment, but I was in curiosity. Hmm, what is here for me to learn? What is here for me to grow? And maybe, just maybe, there's a way better opportunity for me coming down the pipeline that I would not have been available for had I been a yes for this thing that was really not for me. How many times have you noticed that when a door closes, a better one opens? That's 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 where the power is, my friends. Because what is meant for you will be for you. And that's why I chose to be in my joy, because I know that now. I believe that. I'm living into that. And I'm choosing that. That is the difference. I am choosing that version of the story because it's coming from the woman that I am becoming and remembering that I am, and not from the version of me that was surviving and not feeling enough, feeling broken. You know, the truth is, the universal truth is that we all arrive in this earth with a spark. We know we have a joy spark innately in us. You know, some children are born loving music, like literally drawn to it. Some kids are born savants, for Christ's sakes, geniuses. Some kids love to care for animals. Some kids are here to be caregivers, who take care of others, who enjoy nature, who want to be advocates for nature and the environment. Some are drawn to animals and helping others and building and creating things. Some are actually drawn to storytelling, um, you know, coin collecting. Like, what is it? What is the thing that you were born with? What spark was it that you were born with? Because the biggest question that you want to ask yourself is, where in your life, where along the way did you allow yourself to forget what lit you up inside and why? You know, we all have, I believe, I believe in my heart that we all have an innate curiosity that is going to point us toward who we actually came here to be. And often, I believe by the age of 8, we already know. By the age of 8, like almost to the T, at 8 years old, you're like, yes, this is who I want to be. This is what I want to do. This is who I am. But then it's like, but then the world tells you who you need to be, or you start surviving, or something traumatic happens, and you start living from a place of survival. And things like joy feels not safe. But we knew already that we were born with this. And it's something that you can't put in words. It's not something that you can write in theory either. It's just a feeling. It's a knowing. It's like, mm, it's a remembrance. And not everybody is going to receive their support for those gifts, because sometimes there isn't enough time or money or support or guidance. Maybe there isn't enough safety to feel that you can pursue that, because survival becomes the priority. Sometimes our environment teaches us that dreams are actually unrealistic or, you know, far-fetched. Yeah. Sometimes it feels like creativity isn't valuable. Maybe it's even unreliable. Maybe perhaps joy feels frivolous, and that we need to be a little bit more practical, more responsible, more serious, more mature. And slowly we start to really disconnect from that very thing that made us feel alive, whole, complete, free, joyful. And it's not because we chose to, but it was because we had to. We had to adapt, to fit in to what society actually deemed worthy and acceptable. Does that ring true to you? Is that how you experience life right now? So yeah, you didn't lose your purpose. Your purpose is still living inside you. You know it. You just adapted for survival. But the beautiful thing about your joy is that that spark never left you. It's waiting there quietly, patiently, just calling you back. calling you back home when you're ready to remember again your joy spark, your purpose, your passion. Because your joy is your soul's compass. And it's going to keep pointing you towards what is true, even if your mind or your body is not ready to be a yes. Like your soul is always going to be the compass back to your joy. So follow it. It's going to keep pointing towards that, what feels like it matters, towards the thing that feels meaningful, the thing that feels fulfilling and exciting. Like, oh, like you just can't wait to get to that. It's almost like you can't wait to come home again to that thing. That is your joy, and that's power. So I'm going to ask you, what is the thing that keeps calling you? What is calling your name? What is the thing that lights you up every time you actually allow yourself to lean into it? What have you been talking yourself out of? Because maybe it seems too simple, too easy. That's usually your joy spark. That's your zone of genius. Maybe maybe you talk yourself out of it because it's too playful, too silly, too unrealistic, too immature. But what if that was the very thing that you've been dismissing is actually the doorway back to yourself, back to your purpose, back to fulfillment? What if? This week, I actually want to invite you. I want to invite you to give yourself permission. This is your permission slip right here. You see, it says you have permission to follow your curiosity, to follow your passion. Embrace playfulness. Yes, embrace it. Be playful. Be in your freedom. Be free to be. If you don't feel comfortable doing it in public, start small. Doing it in your own room by yourself in private. But give yourself permission. And all you have to do is choose one thing that once actually brought you joy. Maybe it's dance. Maybe it's art. Maybe it's singing. Maybe it's dancing. Maybe it's writing. Oh, maybe it's gardening. Maybe you're building something. Maybe you're going to explore on a hike or on a new adventure. Maybe it's learning. Maybe it's moving. But don't do it because you're trying to become better or performing joy. That's the worst thing you can do. You don't want to perform joy. You want to do it because you're remembering who you actually are and who you came here to be. So I want you to choose that thing that's going to help you remember who you truly are. And if I'm going to leave you with anything today, I want you to leave you with this. Joy is not a reward for becoming who you're meant to be. Joy is actually the path that's going to help you remember. Because your soul doesn't speak through pressure. It speaks through resonance, through alignment, through curiosity, through wonder, through aliveness. So if you feel lost, don't ask yourself, what should I do with my life? What you should actually be asking yourself is, what is going to make me feel most alive right now in this moment? That's your joy spark. And then trust the answer. But you have to ask it first. You have to pause long enough to hear the answer, not from your mind, but from your soul, from your body leaning forward into it. Your body's always going to tell you first, but your soul is always going to lead you there. And you get to just trust the answer because your joy is not going to be random. It's definitely not going to be random. It is your homecoming beacon. It is like that red light. You coming home? Yep. This is your landing. You're landing. Yep. It's going to be your runway home. Because the truth is, your joy has been guiding you all along. You just haven't been listening. You just haven't been taking its guidance. Because somewhere along the lines, like I said earlier, you thought it was immature, irresponsible, silly. So just choose your joy today. That's all I ask. Choose your joy today. What are you going to do today that is going to reignite your joy spark? If today's conversation sparked something within you or resonated, maybe you're craving deeper connection, or if you're trying to actually figure out, if you're tired actually of figuring things out on your own, I want to invite you into the Soul Spark Sisterhood. It's a private Facebook group where conscious women, just like you, are remembering who they are beneath the noise, beneath the expectations and the roles that they've carried for years. And it's a place just to come to be witnessed. It's a place to come and be supported and held, encouraged, and reminded that you are not alone. You're simply finding your tribe. So if I'm your tribe, I'd love for you to join. I see you, sister. So I'd like to invite you, and the link's going to be in the show notes, to join the private Facebook group. And remember, your soul always knows the way home. And it's always going to be asking you to choose the thing that lights you up. So follow your joy spark and ignite the life that you came here to lead. Yes, sisters. Today, I want you to remember to keep rising, keep shining, keep coming home because you matter. And coming home to you is not a destination, it's a devotion. And if no one told you today, you are enough. So remember, you're not behind, you're right on time. Again, I am Margarita Rose, your host here for the Coming Home to You Sparkcast. I'll meet you here next week, same time, same Spark channel. Until next time, be kind to yourself and be kind to others.